welcome everybody. We're so honored to have Diana Quincy with us tonight. So thank you to all the Romancelandia University students that have decided to join us live, and thank you to everyone who will watch this recording later. We're just so happy to have Diana here. I did want to do a quick introduction. Diana, you need no introduction with this group. This group is a group of your readers, but we have to give you the appropriate introduction to your work and your backlist because, again, we're just honored to have time with you. But of course, Diana is a former television journalist who decided, I love this from your bio, that you'd rather make your own stories with a satisfying ending is always guaranteed. Diana is Arab American, grew up all over the world as the daughter of a United States Foreign Service officer. After college, became a television journalist, often covered stories, you know, around unsolved mysteries, which certainly very clearly has informed your plotting. Diana also writes suspense as Diana Awad and historical mystery as DM Quincy. I know Emily is currently on a DM Quincy journey,
I
so I'm
just
grateful.
finished that trio and I'm like, I can't wait to ask you about
She's
it.
our murder
Hey,
mystery
I was
gal.
like, can I make an Atlas Catesby t-shirt before tonight? I didn't have time. I loved writing that series, so I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Wonderful. So again, thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have time with you. And of course, this is a dedicated group of historical romance readers. We got a lot of historical mystery readers too. We love seeing just the cross-genre work that you're doing. But really want to dive a little bit into your background as we start the conversation and learn more about what drew you to writing to begin with. And obviously, you talk about your career as a journalist and growing up traveling the world. What was it that first inspired you to make that jump into authoring romance?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a treat to be here, especially with historical romance fans. Um, so the question, what made me start writing? I always knew I could write. I was a journalist, so I knew I could write, but I never thought I could like tell a story, a long story. I knew I could tell a 2.5 minute story. Um, but I was in the library. It's not that I was in the library with my kids when they were young. And in those days, you had to wait in line to check out your books. And it was a long line. There was a romance on I really hadn't read it. I was in my 30s before I read romance. I mean, I read Barbara Cartland in like eighth grade. So it was a romance by, it'll come back to me. But it's not one of the, big ones that you might know. But I read it in line and then threw it in with the other books, with the boys' books, devoured it, and really spent that summer. I must have read 100 historical romances that summer. So that's when I discovered everybody: Sarah MacLean and Julia Quinn and Mary Balogh and Joe Beverly and Liz Carlisle, who unfortunately is no longer writing, and Sophie Jordan. And I mean, you just name it. And I thought, maybe I could write one. So I started writing one, and I really didn't tell anybody. And then one day on the phone, I was telling my best friend and that I was writing this, and she's like, "What?" So I sent it to her, and she's like, "It's really good. Keep going." So that's really how I started. I mean, it all sort of came together, and so, and I haven't stopped since.
I love that tumble into the rabbit hole of historical romance that I think all of us can
Yeah,
vividly
that
remember.
feels so familiar.
Yeah, the one book that becomes 100 books as quickly as you can gobble them up.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I'm still gobbling them up. So
Yeah. Well, and how does that journalistic background shape the way you plot stories?
um, a lot of my inspiration comes from real stories because,
Yeah.
you know, fact is as interesting in fiction half the time. Um, my story Tempting Bella, which is about I think it's a duke. It's a while ago I wrote it. It's about a duke and an earl who have a bet or gambling. So to settle the gambling debt, they marry it's an heiress to the dukedom in this case, to the son of the earl. I forget in real life, that's what they did.
Yeah.
These two, and when the husband to be saw the girl, she was only 12 or 13 and she wasn't very good looking. He went off traveling for many years. He comes to the opera one night when he's back and he sees this stunningly beautiful woman across the way and asks who she is. And they were like, "That's your wife." And they apparently lived happily ever after. They had like 13 kids and they were actually very happily married. And I thought, if that's not a romance, I don't know what is. So often the next book is inspired when I'm doing research for the current book. So
Okay.
I also, Spyfall was about a parachutist. I came across when I was researching something else, I fell down the female parachutist rabbit holes, and I thought, well, obviously, I'm going to do this story. And then Emily was reading the mysteries. Murder in Mayfair uh, starts with a man selling his wife, and that was actually a true story. Um, and so this man was selling his wife, and a duke bought her,
Mhm.
and I think made her his mistress
Yeah.
until his wife died, and then he married her.
Ooh.
And so she became a duchess. So, these things in history are so interesting that that's often. Um, and then sometimes, a secondary character just pops and you just know. I mean, that was the case with the Duke Who Ravished Me,
Yeah.
where this was a Duke who, had orgies all the time. And I never really intended to do a book for him. He was just a fun side character. But then a story for him popped into my head. And, that might be at least one of my favorite romances that I've written. I just recently reread it. And, there are things I'd rewrite, but I don't really reread my books, but this one I did just recently, and I enjoyed it. Though you can't totally enjoy it because you think, oh, I should have changed that, I should have changed that. But
I'm
all in all,
I can't
uh,
wait until Jess sees this later. We have one reader who recommends The Duke Who Ravished Me every single time your books come up. It's become like the Jess is going to mention Duke Who Ravished Me again because that is the crowd favorite. I have not even had a chance to read it yet, but I know about the sex swing scene. Like I've heard it
Yeah.
described it so many times. Yeah. I'm still moving through the series backwards.
yeah.
But
Well, that was, sometimes the books never write themselves, at least
yeah,
not for me. But that one came as close to writing itself as it comes. So
that's
yeah.
amazing.
Well, it
Well,
does
and it
seem
makes
like whenever an author is like on a series, it's like the fan base, the readers are always like, what about this character? What about this character? So if you can kind of just like peer at the book through that slightly different lens and be like, what would I be hungry for stumbling upon this story? It's like I feel like that's also maybe like a journalistic impulse, right? To sort of like pull at different threads and see where they go.
I mean,
yeah.
certainly research informs my writing, and we're just so lucky to have Google now and have all of these online book sources online that you can read now.
Mhm.
Um, so that research part, but it's obviously it's not just journalists, but yeah, I mean, a journalist, you have to see what the lead is. So you have to immediately know what the lead is. So I think that sort of informs my thinking. Oh, this little germ is going to be the source of an interesting story. And I mean, I hope that's what it is in the end.
How did that inspire? So I'm thinking of the Earl That Got Away immediately because I know in the author's note you talk about the real like matchmaking guide, which again, I feel like, you know, truth is stranger than fiction. Like if you hadn't said like, hey, this is a real inspired story, like this is inspired by a real published pamphlet, I'm sure readers would be like, that would never happen. So
Well,
I'm
that's what, go ahead.
no, I'm so curious how you found that specifically and when you decided that was going to be her profession.
Readers often, not readers. It's really because before I was published, I would enter contests, and a lot of the criticism was, this is so unrealistic, or this would never happen. And it always is realistic. It actually happened.
Yep.
So I learned, and if you've read my books, then you know that I also often have these author notes at the back.
Mhm.
And it's really to like answer that criticism that I know is coming. And really, I don't hear that at all anymore since I started putting these notes in the back of the book.
This is a group of readers who live for an author's note.
But
Like while I don't know if anybody's taken a cruise, but like when you take a cruise, you don't have internet unless you buy internet. And I love taking a cruise and not having internet and just being cut off. And so all week I'll keep a notes app note of like stuff that came into my brain that I couldn't Google that I have to Google later. And when I'm reading a historical romance, oftentimes I'm like, what is the sister sick with in The Heiress Effect by Courtney Milan? And then
Oh,
you get to the end of the book and she's going to tell you in the author's note, like,
Right.
we didn't have a name for this, but you could assume she was sick with it, you know? And
Yeah,
it's like, that's half the fun.
yeah.
I think so. I mean, the research is half the fun. And so I like to put some of that information in the back. Like one of the murder mysteries, actually, which was based, I think both of them were based on real incidents or inspired by real incidents. And in one case, the whole trial transcript was available online. And so I put that in the author's note so that people could go look at it if they want to.
That's amazing.
Emily's looking at me.
I gotta go find that. I'm like,
Like,
Matthew Lloyd Davis, did you read that part to me? I might have to go find the.
Isn't he great?
He's
Isn't
the
he great?
best. He's
He
the
really is.
best. I love how he reads because he's also Cornell Collins. I love him reading a KJ Charles. When I
Yes.
saw that so we're talking about the Atlas Catesby Mysteries by DM Quincy. It starts with Murder in Mayfair. There's 3 books, and they're read by Matthew Lloyd Davis, who is also Cornell Collins. And so if you're a KJ Charles, Cornell Collins stan like I am, when I saw that he was reading that, I was like, okay, like, and Hoopla came through for me on these because there was a long wait for the audio on Libby, and my girl Hoopla, she was invited. So I didn't have to wait.
Kelsey, did I answer? I may not have answered the second part
yeah.
of your
You're
question because I don't
killing it.
remember what it was.
No, I'm just like, I just came off reading The Earl That Got Away, and I loved that tidbit in the author's note around that being a real matchmaking
And
guide.
I ordered the book and it was, so entertaining. Now, Louisa, I think she writes as Edwards or Darling.
Oh, Louisa
Um,
Darling.
yes. So we were at a writing retreat and I was a little stuck on the book. And she was like, and so I was talking about like it says, so she's the one who suggested add likes and dislikes.
Oh,
So that wasn't in the original book, but to me, in my book, to me, that was like a humorous moment that
yeah.
made it a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, like he loves liver.
Yeah. And the color puce. Is that how
Yeah.
you say
The
it? Puce?
color
The
piece
color
is so
piece
good.
takes so much heat in historicals. I'm like, get over yourselves. You know why they don't like it? They don't like it because it's too close to mourning colors. But like, if I see some puce yarn at the yarn store, I'm like a moth to a flame.
Also, the first book in that series, The Duke Gets Desperate, was also inspired by a true story. It was an article I read in Vanity Fair
Yeah.
about I think it's called Cador Castle, Cawdor. And when the dad had married a foreign stepmother, she was like European. I can't remember what she was. And when he died and his heir expected to inherit, he found out at the reading of the will that the father had left it to the stepmother. So that's a continuing battle. Like when she went to America for a couple of months, he moved his family into the castle and then they had to go to court and he got kicked out of the castle. And I thought, oh,
There you go.
another gem.
Amazing.
So, yeah. So,
I love, well, and so this actually reminds me too. Emily had the advantage of being able to see one of your panels at Steamy Lit last year.
mhm.
And we were talking a little bit about, you shared in that panel presentation that jump from, in the Clandestine Affairs series, doing more of a Regency time period to moving later in the century, for the Sirens and Silk. And it sounded like research availability was part of that. And so I'm so curious what limitations you discovered in writing Regency, or where you've kind of found your groove in research and what draws you to writing in later time periods.
It was purely because of the lack of research for Regency. I reached out to professors in England, and there was just not there was no I couldn't find
Yeah.
any enough source material to convincingly. I like to have enough source material to convincingly tell a story about like the Arab Anglo Arabs and or Arab Americans, but there is you know Arab Americans, like the historical record starts in the late 1800s when they arrive. So
Mhm.
there are articles in the New York Times. There are books about it. So there was real there was real information that I could base it on. And that's really why the second series, this Sirens and Silk series, it's why I did push it to Victorian era, because there was convincing information about Arabs in America where there wasn't about Arabs in America in the Regency period, in America during the Regency period.
Yeah.
So it was purely because of that. It was just I wanted to have the information. I didn't want it to all be some pie in the sky fantasy. I want it to be based in reality.
It does feel so rooted. I think that, we talk a lot about like what draws people to read historical romance versus contemporary and other subgenres in romance. And that sense of, when I pick up one of your books, I also learn a lot and,
Oh,
get
I love
to,
that.
yeah, like that's the beauty of historical romance is that immersion in history. So I love that kind of transition into a period where you felt like you had the source material to really work
Yeah.
with some exciting plots.
Yes. So that's really it's just so much fun now. I'm amassing more of that source material for future books and possibly a future historical mystery series.
Ooh.
Um, uh, so I was just in New York recently, and a lot of those Arabs who started in Manhattan near where the World Trade Center was, they built some tunnels. So a lot of them, once they got rich enough, they moved to Brooklyn. And if you go to Brooklyn now, on Atlantic Avenue, their main shopping strip in this particular part of Brooklyn, there are a lot of Arab businesses there. So there is still, there's still evidence of that very vibrant community that once lived around there. And so that was a lot of fun for me to visit. And it was like a little historical walking tour.
That's awesome. I feel like your books are so full of like information that is completely new to me, right? And it's because I'm like, how many voices are giving us the perspective of Arab people in England at this time? It's like very not very thick on the ground. So we're learning so much in these books, and I feel like you just do a beautiful job of like sweeping us into this world, and it's so seamless, and it's like I'm like coming away to be like I'm gonna try a little mint tea later this week. You know what? I'm like,
Right.
I'm really sort of like getting lost in it. And I never am like, wow, she has to like explain a lot of stuff, even when an author is kind of having to explain a lot of stuff, I don't get mad about it. But I just feel like I don't feel like that when I'm reading one of your books. I'm very appreciative of how it's worked in.
Well, I appreciate that, because I don't want to feel like I'm being lectured to when I'm reading. So, and it's really just sprinkling my culture into it. And I mean, it's really the last five books is where I've introduced Arab characters or Anglo-Palestinian or Arab American characters. Because when I started writing, I of course thought no one wants, characters of color of any kind. And then, when Avon came to my agent and said they'd like a series from me, I told my agent I really want to write Arab characters. And she's like, and my editor, who's amazing, she was like, fine, go for it. She was just, and no matter how bonkers the story was, and the Duke Gets Desperate, just a little behind the scenes on the editing. And the Duke Gets Desperate, originally it was her stepdaughter, which is what it ended up being. But my agent, who's a lovely lady, was like, oh, it's a little too incestuous sounding. And so when we pitched it, it became like the cousin, which to me wasn't as juicy and delicious or scandalous.
Uh-huh.
But then when I told my editor, well, originally it was going to be the stepdaughter, she's like, well, make it the stepdaughter. So,
Oh,
I got to go back to the original
Nice.
idea, which to me makes it more, juicy.
the scene of discovery in that is so good. I live for that kind of just like delicious angst. Everybody, I think there's even a moment like she's physically sick, and I'm like, oh, this is so
Yeah,
good.
doesn't she throw up on his
It
boots?
does. It's so good though. You feel the stress so acutely. I love that
Wait,
moment.
does she throw up on his boots in The Duke Gets Desperate? She throws up on him in
It's the first book in
Her Night
Clandestine.
with the Duke.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one we're talking about, isn't it?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
I love that book is
Oh,
just
good. I'm
like
glad.
from
Oh
start
my
to
God.
finish. I had so
That
much
series
fun.
was everything to me, but when I read The Marquis Makes His Move, I was like sitting in my rocking chair in my bedroom and I kept like, no, what? And like my husband was like, "Are you okay? Like what's happening?" I was like, "You don't understand." You don't
Oh,
understand.
Emily and I are like earning a bad reputation too because we will pick books for our summer camp read-alongs and we are both different kinds of angst. Like
Yeah.
I'm more like interpersonal angst. Emily's like
I'm like,
murder
they're
mystery,
chopping off heads
PG.
and it's very lighthearted.
Very, yeah. So we're like, this is a romp. Like this is fun. This is bonkers. And then like people are reaching some stressful plot points. And we're like,
Yes, people were stressed about the Marquis makes his move because
and
of
it's
like he kept lying to her. So it was like he's
yeah.
lying to her so much. This is so painful.
Oh, I
I was
loved
like,
it.
what do you want from him? He's doing the best he can. Relax.
Well, I really, in that case, it was risky for the heroine to be married
It was.
because
That was
I was
so
told
good.
that, but I didn't hear anything from anybody. Nobody complained.
No,
I
you
guess because the husband
told
was
them.
such a jerk.
He was so bad.
I know. He was deliciously bad though, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
It was like no one was mad that she starts married. And I'm somebody who would like not enjoy like a cheating book. Like I really struggle even with like an old Kleypas, you know, like if he's like, we just got married, but I'm going to my mistress. I'm like, no, it
Right.
hurts. But like in The Marquis Makes His Move, I was like, don't worry about it. I really feel like this is supposed to be funny. Like
Yeah.
just hang in there. And it was so funny.
Well, I was trying to find a way, because the obvious thing is he dies, right? The husband.
Yep.
So I really, really wanted to find a way that was like different that I hadn't seen anywhere else before. So I was pretty pleased with the plot point. I came up with that.
I
And I
think
had a lot of fun writing that one because she's a map maker, which was fun.
yeah.
And because I love the whole, nobleman pretending to be a servant. I mean, that was fun for me. I had to go find the source material is like, it was a guide um, written by a footman, like how to be a footman.
Yeah.
So I put some of that in there. So he's sort of totally oblivious to a lot of the things, which was fun for me.
It's
So
amazing.
Mhm.
The re-steeped tea leaves, the shoe
Yes.
shine. I mean, it's
The
the
way
tea
that he
is
gets
so
such
good.
an education in how a typical household staff might be treated, and he's privileged to like not really have to think about it. And then once he's confronted with it, he's like going to his own servants, like, are you guys like drinking terrible tea? Do you hate me? Are you eating enough meat? And they're like, we're fine, chill.
So
well,
fun.
I think a thread that runs through all of my books, whether they're characters of color or not, is there is some thread about like class differences and
Mhm.
the social justice themes. Um, so I think those are in there without being preachy, I hope,
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
because they're also entertaining. Like I didn't know they used old tea leaves either. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to ask too, because we did this for a summer camp read, and it was so compelling at the time that we were reading it to think about a map maker. And I'm so curious, why a map maker, one, for the female main character, and what inspired that conflict in that plot line, because it felt so relevant.
It felt very
And
relevant.
it was, I I had around the same time read Minor Detail by Adanya
Mhm.
Shibley, and there's a sequence in that around like the surrealism of having maps rewritten. And I just kept thinking of the Marquess Makes His Move and that sequence that felt so localized and interpersonal in the way that you conveyed it, but said so much beyond that conflict. So I'm so curious, what inspired a cartography conflict?
Well, I mean, it started with I no longer, but I was a journalist in my day job when I was doing it. And I had written a story and I was doing Americana stories, which was fun because I could just really write whatever I wanted. And I came across some research about how a lot of the early map makers in America were women. And a lot of young women, when they were in school or they were being schooled, were taught how to make maps. And they made the best maps because they were detailed and, intricate. And so that sparked my interest in women as map makers. And then as I researched it further, and in England, because she's in England, I saw that a lot of these women did not put their names on the maps as it happened in the book, because people wouldn't buy a map made by a woman.
Mhm.
So the best map makers in history could have been women, and they're lost to history. We don't know who they were. I mean, there are some we know in history, but how many? Which is really the story of women and people of color everywhere. How many of their stories have been lost to history and things that they weren't given credit for. So because she was going to be a map maker, it had to be something, there had to be some reason for him to come into her household. And naturally, I'm Palestinian American. So naturally, borders and, fake countries and stolen land are all, so I'm sure that informed of course, in the time that these characters live, this conflict doesn't exist yet. Um, so, um, so yeah, I mean, I was, when they talk about, these Arabs don't have a love for the land. I mean, those were real words.
Mhm.
I think that Robert Kennedy said that about the Palestinians, that the Arabs will never have a love for the land. And this is the land that they were indigenous to, the way the Israelis will. So, and these were the newcomers from Europe for the most part. So, I mean, some of those things I do sprinkle in.
Yeah.
And so that's how it informed it. So originally it was because she was a map maker and I thought that was cool. I mean, I try to give my heroines cool jobs because it'll help me develop the character, right?
Every one of your heroines has a
You do
cool
such a good job of
yes.
So, because I mean, how to inform the character, how to make her different. I mean, historical romance, in a lot of ways, there are a certain formula that you have to follow, right? So, you're going to have, conflict, you're going to have a happily ever after, you're going to have a trope. But I wanted to, but so it's all about the journey, right?
Mhm.
And so, to make the journey interesting or different, often I would start with the career for the heroine, and that would then decide what the story is. I mean, the same thing. I don't know what I was doing when I read about a woman bone setter. And so I thought, wow. So, of course, right away, that was going to be, so that became the heroine for
The Viscount made me do it.
yes, for the Viscount made me do it. And so there was a real book, a real source written by a bone setter. And so the hero ends up having a problem. And that was a real case that I borrowed out of this book. So
Yeah, that's another great mystery.
that one was kind of obvious, right? That one you kind of
Well,
knew.
I
I didn't
feel
really try
like
to hide who the bad guy was
it
in
was
that situation.
definitely like a softball, but it was still like no one goes into that book because at the beginning of the book, the hero is suspicious of the heroine. She must have some connection to the death of my parents that I've been blamed for all those years ago. And of course, you as the audience were like, there's no world in which she's like responsible. So certainly it wasn't like the caper that we know you to be capable of caping, but like you focused on the romance in that one. And also I thought the mystery was really fun.
Oh,
I
good,
love
good.
that dramatic irony because there are, like, I think of Belle of Belgrave Square by Mimi Matthews is one that I think of where you can see where the and the fun is in watching the characters get there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Right,
it's less about the mystery for the reader and
right,
more about the mystery for the characters to
right.
discover. And
Okay,
I
but I
love
do
that
think
dramatic.
that one has a twist that a lot of people will not guess. Because it's like
Which
Yeah.
which one are we
it's
talking about? The
the
Duke of,
Belle
I
of
mean,
Belgrave Square by Mimi
oh, okay.
Matthews. It's just like there's like a more obvious twist for you to guess. And
That's
then,
true.
like I just read Uncertain Magic by Laura Kinsale, and I was telling my husband about it halfway through, and he guessed like what the twist would be. And he
Oh,
was like, "Oh, is it this?" And I was like, "Oh, that hadn't occurred to me." But Alexander Vasti had done like a series of stories that she saved as a highlight where she like went chapter by chapter and recapped everything. And right around that same point in the book, she's like, at this point, Laura wants everybody to think XYZ. And it was exactly what my husband had guessed. So I'm
Oh, wow.
sometimes it's obvious, and I'm just like, I'm on a different planet.
It's so fun. Well, and I'm so curious too, like as you jump between historical romance and historical mystery, where, what feels most like, is it truly, are you like a mood writer? Like you feel called to do more mystery right now, and so you're going to jump into a mystery series? Did that feel natural bridging between
I
genres?
mean, I was at my happiest writing maybe
Mhm.
when I was doing a romance, and then I would do a historical mystery, and then
Mhm.
I would do, because it was like it cleansed the palate kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then by the time I finished the mystery, I was in the mood for a romance again. Um, so writing the same thing in a row for me can get boring. So it's nice to be able to mix it up, for example.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I'm doing a thriller now.
I
So,
know you have to tell us more about the
Yeah.
thriller that you have coming up, because will this be the first contemporary suspense thriller? Because I know your
it's
earlier.
my first contemporary thriller, even though I've done those, three historical mysteries. It is a Mindy Kaling book club pick.
It's really
So it's being published by Mindy's Book Studio, um, so I have a major case of, imposter syndrome right now.
No.
Um, but so it's a contemporary story. And, a few readers had reached out to me, and these are my like Muslim readers or my Arab American readers. And they had said, do you have any stories where both of the characters are Muslim or Arab American? And I sort of kind of had that in The Marquis Makes His Move, because she ends up having a Lebanese grandfather. But really, I hadn't, because I didn't, I would have eventually done that with romance, I think, with historical, I think. But so in this thriller, it's a very Arab American cast. The wife is Arab American, the husband is, most of the characters. And in this case, it begins, well, the backstory is the protagonist, the woman, meets this guy in a sort of arranged kind of, like, he sees her at a family wedding, and his mother asks her mother, she's just finished college. He comes, it's like almost like love at first sight. And so they get married, and have a very happy marriage as far as she knows. Very, and but the thing is, he does tell her that he was dating a white woman in college, and that he broke up with her almost right when he started seeing this girl. So she's a little uncomfortable, a little. Anyway, he dies in the first chapter in a car accident. And she eventually finds out that he has a house that she knew nothing about, that he's paying the mortgage on. And guess who lives in the house?
white girl alert.
So that's what appears to be the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are twists to it. So there are twists. So it'll be interesting to see if people figure it out.
Cool.
Not
me.
But I had a lot of fun writing it. So you'll have to let me know once you read it.
Emily will reach the final page and be flabbergasted.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like just a babe in arms the whole journey, and other times I'm like from the first I knew what was going on. Not usually.
That
So
sounds
in
fantastic.
this case, you'll have an idea, but you won't quite know
Okay,
what it is.
that's exciting.
So I'm excited about it. It's, the arcs, I think, are being done now. We just got a cover. I was just allowed to share the cover, which I love.
Beautiful.
I really had almost no notes on the cover. I was like, listen, if Mindy approves it, fine by me. Who am I to say no if Mindy likes it?
It looks incredible. I love it's such a distinct too. It reminds me of the cover style for, I think it's When No One's Watching by Alyssa Cole. I love
Yes.
the thrillers. I just
Yes.
love all these romance authors giving us some like real high stakes mystery
I
thriller,
love
because
that.
that's when I read thriller.
I love it too, because you definitely give us that in your historical romances too, but this is like a way for you to like let the publishers know that you do this so that
Right.
they keep the contracts coming. It's like,
Well,
it's good. It's like delicious to read for us.
I think it looks like there's going to be two more thrillers coming at least. Um, so of course, I mean, just a funny story. So the original version of the book is called As Far as She Knew. So the original story, there was like sort of a love story because I'm a romance writer.
Yeah.
So my editor was like, "Yeah, we got to take the romance completely out." I'm like, "What? Completely? I've never written a book with no romance." And the romance really is with because the movie goes, I mean, the book goes back and forth. So we do meet the husband.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it is a love story.
Mhm.
It's just, he's dead. And so you go back to the past. And so you see their love story and you wonder, what was he doing? Is he capable of what she thinks he was capable of? So
Wow.
that's sort of the tugging of this book.
That
Emily will
sounds
be
awesome.
selling it as a romp
I
to
know, I'll be
romance
like, this was a lighthearted,
readers.
good, super
Uh,
rom.
I don't think you'll find it lighthearted.
I mean,
So,
you'd be surprised. I told everybody when we read Any Old Diamonds as our group read, I was like, it's so funny, it's so lighthearted, and they're like, Emily, there was a murder suicide. Like,
so maybe you will think it's
I know. We
a
got
comedy. I don't know.
I'm like, as long as the main characters weren't being too mean to each other, I felt great.
But you mentioned about how so many historical romance writers we're going to other genres because we have to.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
sort of the sad state of the industry. Um, we don't do it for the money, but some money is good. So we
Necessary.
have bills to pay, but also just, a lot of publishing houses are just not publishing them anymore. They're certainly not doing it in the mass market size. So just so this is obviously the mass market size. This is the trade size. So this is the other book that's coming out. That's an anthology. But you see the difference. I'm
Yeah.
not advertising. I'll advertise later. But you see the difference, right? So this is the mass, just for people
Yeah.
who don't know. That's the market. That's the
We
trade.
love a
So
master.
everybody wants trade now,
Yeah.
and I don't understand it. And apparently, and it's been confirmed by booksellers and people in the audience that a lot of people under 30 think this is like their grandmother's book, that this size is like a grandmother old fashioned
Like
thing.
everything that we're fighting as like Romancelandia University, we're like, you guys don't understand. Like, you could be buying a book for $8.99, but you're buying it for $17.99. Like,
How are they doing that? I don't understand.
I don't
First of
understand.
all, if you travel, well, I guess now you have, the Kindle.
yeah, but like
But
and those old mass market paperbacks with the oil painted covers from like very notable artists featuring very notable models. It's like that, those are collector's items, obviously. For those with eyes to see. But then there's still people who will see that and be like, oh, that's so embarrassing. That's like you buy that at the grocery store. And it's like,
I
sure,
wish you could still buy it at the grocery store.
I
They'd be
wish.
selling a lot more of them.
God, I always look and it's always just Bridgerton. No offense to Bridgerton, but
Right.
it's always just Bridgerton.
And used to be when I started writing and the way I fell into it after the library, when I was going to the grocery store, they'd be right there next to checkout. And so while you're waiting in line, I would throw one in. And
Yeah.
we don't have those opportunities anymore.
But
People
you
have,
know what? It's like the historical romance reader and the historical romance author know why those books are at the checkout at the grocery store. It's like ladies with their pin money doing shopping and get a little something for yourself. It's a pop item for all you retail mavens. But like it's reflective of like an economy that limits women's spending power, and it's like these books were powerful in the hands of the women who bought them and read them and cherished them. And they still would be if they were still there in that checkout line. But
right.
um, you know, whatever. If we have our way within the next year, maybe the tide will turn in favor of historical romance because we really are trying to get all of our friends to be as loud as possible about our adoration of the subgenre and appreciation for those of you who write these incredible books. And like, we dearly want more Diana Quincy historical romance, and we dearly want more historical romance featuring Arab characters.
Yeah.
Well, I hope there will be.
Yeah.
So I know Evie Dunsmore did a Lebanese character
Mhm.
Yeah.
after me. I'm just saying.
Well, and her book is really relevant this week because it's all about stealing
Nice.
from those who would just jack
I
your
forgot about.
artifacts and stick them in the British Museum and bringing them home.
You cannot tell me that people don't want to read historical romance when we have the Louvre heist
Everybody's
in real
everybody's
time.
nuts about the Louvre heist, and I'm like, you want Louvre heist? Read this Evie Dunmore book.
Right.
There's a historical romance for that.
Listen, it's hard to feel bad about these heists when it was stolen jewels anyway. All those jewels and those crown jewels that were stolen from the Louvre,
A bajillion
a
percent.
lot of them came, from other countries.
I feel like that's another thing where it's like the historical romance author and the historical romance reader been knowing that.
We
Yeah,
clocked it,
The
right?
average news article reader might not realize that,
right,
but
right,
we know that.
right. So I mean, I think it's really been a lack of imagination
Yeah.
from the publishers when it comes to um, how they package these books. I think, maybe we love the old fashioned way of doing it, the hero and the heroine making out or whatever. But, you know, those to me, for me personally, I think someone should have tried to, you know, make a cover that was maybe a cross between like just a historical fiction and a romance and meet it somewhere in the middle
Yeah.
so that people wouldn't be embarrassed if they're embarrassed to pick up a clinch.
Mm.
So, I mean, to me, it's very sad. I
Mm.
mean, right now, I'm not contracted to write any more historical romance right now. But that doesn't, I mean, I have the anthology coming out in November. I mean, that's not to say if somebody asks me to, I'll do it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, my editor at Avon, where I did the last 5 books, she left. And so once your editor, the person who has acquired you, leaves, you kind of don't. I mean, I had a great editor for the last book. I mean, I have no complaints, but I was kind of an orphan
Yeah, you don't have
after.
that advocacy.
Yeah. So, and I didn't, I mean, to be honest, I didn't go to them with a proposal either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they might have taken, if I'd come up with a proposal, they might have taken it. I don't know.
It is hard because I know, and obviously this is just preaching to the choir, but we all see the marketing that does and doesn't happen for historical romance and, current author. So it's like, yes, respect that, that maybe you had not brought a proposal, but also like how much work are you expected to do? Yeah, just
Well,
know, I mean, as historical romance readers, we see that dichotomy and it's challenging.
it is. I mean, every other book, because I've written what, 14 or 15 historical romances. And every time, when I turned in the last book in the contract, the editor would say, what have you got for me next?
Mm-hmm.
So it was always the editor saying, what's your next proposal? And so, I mean, if I'd had a fantastic idea, but I had written the thriller and, I just feel it's good to diversify too. And I love writing historical mysteries. And if I write another historical mystery series, it will have a really delicious romance in it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I do hope to, and I feel optimistic at least that, with you and Sherry Thomas and Sarah McLean and others doing contemporary stories, bringing new readers into the fold, who will get to know your writing style and your plotting and your characters. And we're bringing in anybody we can. We will always take reading.
I think that's why I really respect and admire what Sarah McLean did with These Summer Storms, because she went hard on the romance. She went as hard on the romance as she did on the family dysfunction and the game and all that. And so I think she really, gave her current readers, what they expect while adding a lot more, this whole game dynamics, this family game, a very dysfunctional family. So, I mean, I think she really was smart in the way she did it. I mean, with Joanna Shoup, who writes, delicious historical romances, hers are coming out, her last book, The Gilded Heiress, came out with a non-traditional cover, and it came out in trade. And her next one is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So I can't wait for it.
Not
So, I mean,
bad.
I think there is some, I think you're going to have some of the best historical romance writers are still going to stay in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Eloisa James is still publishing. I mean, a lot of them are. And I hope that continues. And I hope to still, publish. So we'll see. But I don't have anything in the works yet, but I have ideas. So we'll see.
It's okay. We still have a group of people who need to read The Duke Who Ravished Me, so we've got some backlist.
Yeah. We need to set up like a buddy read
I
for
know.
be like, all right, you guys, time to get down to business.
Well,
I think so. Who read The Duke Who Ravished Me?
this was our friend Jess,
Our
and
friend
we
Jess.
have a Jessica
Okay.
on here, but I don't think it is the Jess who is our Duke
Okay. Okay.
And some folks
reader.
in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because there's a twist in there that I wonder if people guessed.
I will be in your DMs.
Okay. All right.
Like, you got me.
Sounds good.
Oh, that's great. Well, and I'm also curious. I'm thinking of your fall into the rabbit hole historical romance journey. You talked about a few recent authors. If you had to name, like your either five most like pivotal historical romances that you read or top authors that you feel like they're the ones that like I look to when I'm, needing inspiration or just a reminder of why I write and read in this genre, who are those people or those books?
I mean, I think, the funny thing is because I came to it late, the old timers, like the people who Sarah McLean or,
Yes.
Sophie Jordan might say inspired them are not really the people who inspired me. Like the Sarah McLeans and the Sophie Jordans are the ones who inspired me because of when I was writing and who was on the shelf. I don't know if you've read Liz Carlisle. I really loved her books. Some of her books are amazing.
Read her.
And
Well,
I mean, I think she's retired now, but she did some that were like taboo. I mean, some involved incest. And
yeah.
so there was really damaged characters who, those are very emotionally, but obviously, Mary Baylog, Joe Beverly, I said Sarah, I wrote that down so I won't forget. Oh, if you haven't read Waking Up with the Duke, go and get it now.
Oh my
This
God.
is
I just read it. Woo!
Lorraine. How great was that?
And like really, she just like had this like magic in her. This is a Lorraine Heath. She has this kind of like there's so much that could potentially put you off this book. And she's like, watch me stick the landing. It's wild.
I love that book. That's a book I don't really reread often, but I reread that one. And then there's one I like some obscure ones. There's a book called The Pearl by Mary Belloc. I don't know if anybody here has read it.
Oh,
Nobody
Oh,
has read it.
we have a Bellag stan in our school that's Debbie's definitely gonna have read that, but I feel like I've seen book reports for it
well,
this
Catherine, I think, has read The Pearl or is reading. We've got some
Oh, I
Pearl
think it's
readers.
called The
Yes.
Secret Pearl.
Yeah,
The
we
Secret Pearl.
Pearl.
And
Oh
it
my.
starts with the heroine is so poor that she hires herself out as a prostitute in the first, and the hero hires her. I mean, and so, and then later, I guess he feels guilty, so he hires her as his governess. And but I mean, there's, it's a little bit older, so there might be some problematic, but
That's excellent.
that was my catnip because one of my other books is Secrets of Surrender. Mine are very obscure. Secrets of Surrender by Madeline Hunter. I love Madeline Hunter, especially her earlier books to me were better. But in this case, the heroine is sold to the hero again. And well, I mean, he buys her to sort of save her from a really
A real Atlas
happens.
Catesby of a guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just delicious. And then really all of the books in Eloisa James's Desperate Duchesses series are great. And also she did a Shakespeare series and she's a Shakespeare professor. Yeah. So the Shakespeare series is really great. Oh, and then there's one called An Unwilling Bride by Joe Beverly. And in this case, the mother, like the Earl to the dukedom, his mother cheated. So he is not actually the Earl's son.
Ooh.
And but he was like the fourth son, so nobody cared. But then the first three sons die, so he becomes the heir. So the father, and this is the father has an illegitimate daughter, so he wants
all right.
the boy. his heir to marry his illegitimate daughter so that
True.
his
The
bloodline,
bloodline, yeah.
right. And so that's, obviously I like forced marriage and close proximity
I
and
just read something like that where the two characters share a half sibling, but they're not related. What did I just read that had that? And it was like, well, it's not awkward for them, but it's kind of awkward for their nieces and nephews.
I don't think I read that one.
I'll have to think of what it
Anyway,
was.
if they're messy, I like them, which you can probably tell
Yeah,
by the way I write my
messy is
books.
very fun. And historical romance has a way of being like, isn't this so far removed from what you think is acceptable? And isn't it also so far removed from your like preconceived notions about this like far gone, like very proper time, you know? It's like people been messy.
Yeah,
It's
I mean that's what I love about. I'm not a big fan of contemporary romance
yeah.
because to me they have a much harder, those authors who are extraordinarily talented, obviously. They're selling tons of books. But they have to, like when you read a historical romance, you suspend reality a little. It's like almost a fairy tale kind
Yeah.
of long ago, other world.
Mhm.
The contemporaries has to be in this world and they have to make it feel like it could really happen and make it feel
Yeah.
relevant. But that's one of the reasons I love writing historicals because I love going into that different world in a different place with different rules. To me, that's half the fun, learning the rules, learning the little, obviously learning the incidents that happened that I
Yeah.
can make in a real story
It's like
or into a book.
it's like playing jazz. You have to learn the rules and then you can start making a big mess.
There you go.
It's so true. And I feel that because I feel like with historical romance, you get the stakes are so different.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like I think, my favorite tropes like second chance romance, which thank you, the Earl That Got Away, all of us loving
Yeah.
second chance romance
Oh,
and like
That
good.
was so good.
I mean, that really delivered on all my favorite beats. And I just think like, gosh, it's so hard for me when I'm reading, a present day setting to think like, I'm gonna have a hard time accepting why they broke up if it's not like they're spies for opposite countries or there was,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like,
The
you
stakes
know,
are so much higher usually in
Yes.
historicals. Like, oh, she doesn't have a job. I mean, she can't get a job. If she doesn't marry well, she's poor. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's a plot
Yeah.
device in so many historicals is that the woman is really so powerless in a patriarchal society and she has to find a way to make it.
yeah.
Um,
And
Yeah.
that's why the magic of like the Marquess makes this move works because we're like, we're gonna root for her to do anything to regain agency because she has none. Like she has
Yeah.
none. So it's women's wrongs left and right, and I love
Yeah.
it.
More,
well, that
please.
makes it more fun to read.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah, there's like I always think about like when comparing contemporaries and historicals, I always think about that The Duchess War by Courtney Milan, where it's like the heroine has a terrible secret. And if this is your first historical romance, you might feel really weird when you find out what her terrible secret is, because I'm gonna spoil it here. She was good at chess as a child. And it's like
Scandalous.
she's unmarriageable, she's a stain on her
Too
family.
smart.
And but it's like if you're a historical reader, you're like, no, I get it. Like I'm versed in the lore and I understand why that those are high stakes. So I always tell people that's a more advanced historical.
Yeah.
It as your first one.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love your list of books and authors because one, you mentioned several authors I've not had a chance to read yet, and it's somebody who's like frantic of like, I don't want to be done with all my favorite author. Like I can't
Oh,
finish all your
anything.
backlist.
Lisa Kleypas is amazing. I don't know if you've read her.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, she's like, you know, her books just keep getting better.
They do.
Um, and obviously Julia Quinn. But Lisa Kleypas, I mean, do I have a favorite Lisa Kleypas? They're all so good.
Also good.
Emily's
So,
I'm
she's
and
a
to me,
great.
Kleypas head.
her older ones, maybe because I got a little more jaded as I read more of them.
Yeah.
But boy, when I discovered her and I saw that she had this whole backlist, I mean, you have to read Lisa Kleypas. She's just,
Yes.
oh, I know. Dreaming of You
Oh,
is
yes.
one that you should probably
Well,
read.
Dreaming of You kicks off the greater Lisa Kleypas universe, which we call the Matildaverse. And I've researched it a lot because in Dreaming of You, the main character is an author who pens a
Right.
very popular novel called Matilda. And then the Matildaverse kind of springs from there with all of the like connections in Lisa's written universe. They all
Mhm.
spring forth from Dreaming of You.
I didn't
I love
realize
it.
that.
Yeah, I've done some extensive research along with a couple of other bookstagrammers, and there's something we do Lisa Kleypas Appreciation Week on Bookstagram. It's hosted by a couple of really wonderful lovers of historical romance and lovers of mass market paperbacks with
Shout
stepbacks.
out to Gigi
And
Reed's Romance and Nadia and Stepbacks.
yes, and so I've worked with a couple of other bookstagrammers. Jen Always Reading. Is it Jen Always Reading? I never remember what Jen Always Reading.
And
I'm
always
like, what's
reading.
Jen's handle? And Diagnosed Romantic. We put together a huge like compendium of like the connections between all of those books and a timeline and like a family tree for Lisa
Where is that?
Appreciation Week. That's on, you'll find that on my grid. I'll send you a link in our
Okay. Yeah,
DM.
I'd love to see that.
But it's a lot of fun to just explore that. Lisa, she didn't always have like a unified universe, but then she eventually was like, all right, you all know each other.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
this
she
is
did.
so
She started making like the Ravenels, and she started making them more connected.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe she would have gotten that Julia Quinn deal
I
if hers had been more connected.
honestly, it's just the luck of the draw, right? Because like I really think that some of those Kleypas series would make a really cool adaptation, but I also think there's like a lot of really interesting historical romance series that could
Yes.
make great adaptations for television, and it's just like we just need, it's not that we want more Bridgerton. We want more of historical romance adaptations.
Yeah, and it's interesting that even though Bridgerton has done so well, you're not seeing.
It's not
Uh,
becoming a big trend.
yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
despite
It's
the
kind
fact,
of
I mean, we talk about this a lot, and I just saw a blurb the other day that made my eyes cross because it described a new KJ Charles as Bridgerton meets the Goldfinch. And I was like, what does that even
What
mean?
does that mean? Oh, Bridgerton, because a family exists in a historical
Because
scene? What?
they like don't live in 2025. Like, I mean, we're using Bridgerton as a blurb for every historical romance to a degree that it becomes meaningless. Like it's lost
Yeah.
its full
right,
meaning.
right.
Like
When
so
I wanted to go on submission with my thriller, I said, I think it's a lot like, I think the comparison is Leanne Moriarty books.
Mhm.
And my agent was like, oh God, no. She says everybody compares their books to Leanne Moriarty books. And so it just like it's meaningless at this point.
yeah.
Okay.
But like nobody's gotten the memo on historical. I'm like, it's killing me to see all of your books like
Yeah.
marketed as the same thing. It's like there's so much diversity in this subgenre, and
Yeah.
we're
Well,
just
I
like,
mean, it's barely marketed at all.
Really
So
marketed.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I have to say, I love that Emily, you did the whole Matilda verse, and my first Lisa Kleypas. She's like researched every single connection in every Kleypas novel that
What's your
exists.
first Lisa Kleypas?
Devil in Disguise, the very last Ravenel. the the least connect.
The
I mean,
one that like spoils everything the
every
core
previous
series
plot
built
line.
up to.
I
I
can't remember who are the
It's
characters
the
in The
one
Devil
with
in
Keir
Disguise.
McRae, who's like the bastard son of one of the previous characters, and he's like a
it
So it's not
expands.
Severin. It's not Severin's book.
No,
no, that's oh man, where's that's Chasing Cassandra.
Okay. I mean, I've read them all. I just
Yeah, I
don't,
know.
yes.
They're all
So
up there.
they go in one and out.
I love like a medium timeline Lisa Kleypas, like standalone. Like my favorite Lisa Kleypas is Stranger in My Arms, and it's a standalone and it's like a really kooky story. But like when
Is
you
that
go,
the one? Is that the one where the
the
husband
bad
comes
husband
back
dies, but then he returns from the dead.
and but it's not him, right?
Maybe, who knows? Could it
Okay.
possibly be
Can't remember.
him? Why is he nice now?
But he looks the same or he looks
But he
different?
looks the
Can't remember.
same, and
All of her books are so good.
it's and then the thing with Lisa is you never know if she's gonna give you like a supernatural element. Like in Stranger in My Arms, the whole book, you're like, is it magic? What is happening? Because there are
Also,
books where she's like, magic, here you go.
The one where a woman hires a escort on her 30th birthday to lose her virginity. That one's good too.
And
I don't
it's her
remember.
boss.
And it turns out to be her. Is it her boss?
Yeah, it's her boss. And then he is like I don't know, he's like because Lisa loves a mogul of yore. She loves like to a hero inspired by like the guy who invented trains, the guy who invented big box bookstores. So she's with the big box bookstore hero who
Didn't
also.
one of her characters like uh, invent a Monopoly type of
Yeah,
game?
and that's also the book that has like Irish republicanism going nuts, like bombing threats and
Yes, yes.
stuff. Like she's like, I don't know. Like I always imagine Lisa at home with like a pair of dice and she's like, Irish bomb threat, Monopoly. like who knows? Who cares? Are we
Amazing.
gonna include a painful deflowering scene? Of course we are.
Of course.
Pandora.
Pandora, yeah, and her name is Pandora. As Sarah McLean would say on Fated Mates, name is destiny.
Amazing. Meanwhile, I
Pandora.
literally spent the entire book, Devil in Disguise, convinced that this really sus character, St. Vincent, was probably a bad guy. I was like,
Wait, is
that's
this
not
Saint
really him.
Vincent? Is he the son of the
Okay,
original Saint Vincent?
okay,
I
so Saint Vincent from the Wallflower series,
Right.
you get all the way to the end. Spoiler alert coming for the Ravenel
I
series.
just like
Tune
look
us out
away.
if you haven't gone there. You get all the way to the end of the Ravenel series and the final book. Well, it shouldn't be the final book, but Lisa has gone quiet. But like there could conceivably be what more. But the guy is this like blonde but bearded Scottish guy, Kier, who shows up and is like, if I shave my beard, that is going to reveal that the paternity is that I'm St. Vincent's son from Once Upon a Time. And it turns out that he knows about him. He found out about him in the last year and he's been looking for him. And it's all
Oh.
good. Like it doesn't ruin his HEA in the slightest. It's a very good
I,
book.
I may not have read that book.
Oh, it's so good. It's
I
so
better, I
good.
thought I had read all of Lisa's books. I'll have to go find it.
Oh, there's more. There's
That
more.
was my very first, and that book is built for the St. Vincent reader to just
Yeah.
revel in the St. Vincent moments on page, and I was so lost.
You
I
really
felt
get the sense that he's her favorite hero.
oh yeah.
Do you have a favorite hero that you've written? Is there a character that you've or any gendered character, anybody that you've written that you're like, that's my baby, and I would write them into all my other books?
Well, I mean, I loved Atlas Catesby. I sort of made him, and maybe maybe Sebastian from Tempting Bella, because he's really one of my only beta heroes, I think.
Okay.
And I really tried to make him profoundly decent.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of has a tragic kind of backstory, another twist. So maybe him, I wrote him so long ago, but I mean, they're like my children. I love them all. But a lot of these heroes you write because they're fun, but not that you'd want to be married to them, right?
Yeah, no, that's
Fair.
real.
That's fair. But you've done such a nice job, even just like weaving them through each series. I still remember Marcus makes this move, like our first introduction to the Marquess in the Viscount made me do it. When we
Uh-huh.
see him weeping, I mean,
Well, we do briefly see him in
And the
Her
Duke
Night with
gets
the Duke.
desperate. Yeah.
Um,
No, and the Duke gets desperate.
in
In
Her
Her Night
Night
with
with
the
the Duke,
Duke.
he shows up at his doorstep, like looking for her, and the Marquis is like at the door, like, "You're not good enough for my sister."
Yeah.
yes,
He's
I
there
mean, I
for like a hot
really,
second.
yeah. I mean, I try to do that. I mean, I want to introduce these characters so that readers want them.
We
I
love
think
that.
I very purposely weaved him in, knowing he was going to be the hero of book three.
Okay, but do
And
you know who
I
you
wanted
also
readers to.
seemingly really purposefully weaved in is that cousin who was hitting it off with the girl that the Viscount from the Viscount made me do it. Like he used to have a thing with that white girl, and then the cousin was like, "Who's that white girl?" And it really felt like there was a book there. Diana, where's that
Well,
book?
there could have been a book there.
Yeah.
But and so sometimes it's fun just to write that in because really, what would that book be?
yeah.
But it was just fun to have like that side wink, wink for the.
Yeah.
Um, but when I talked to my editor, she was like, I said, we could do that. I wasn't really, and she's like, let's do a new series.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's when we came up with the
Well, we
Duke and
love the
Stats.
new series.
So, well,
We
thank you.
thank you for joining us to talk about your new
Thank you. It's been so much
book.
fun.
It was so fun.
It was. Thanks for inviting me.
So generous with your time. We're such big fans of your work and so excited to now have an even longer reading list, going through more of your backlist, jumping
Yeah.
across genre, reading some of your favorites, which I know I can see in our future a Romancelandia University objective of like Diana Quincy reads. So
Great. Oh,
Okay,
that'd be fun.
before we sign off, I have to give everybody the secret word. And I think the secret word today is going to be Atlas,
mhm.
Oh,
because it's a reminder to all of you to read the Alice Catesby mysteries, which kick off with Murder in Mayfair. And the way that if you're new to this, if this is your first time watching a lecture, you DM the secret word to @RomancelandiaUni, and we will apply your extra credit for watching the lecture. Don't leave it in the YouTube comments because I might not ever see it.
She
And
will
you have
never.
until the end of the session. We might even give you an extension. Who knows? Just watch this space.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you. Of
much.
thank you. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
course.
so much. You were the best. Everybody have a wonderful night.